In every friend group, there's a planner. The one who creates the Google Doc, the one who knows how to split a dinner bill 7 ways in their head, the one who reminds everyone to pack sunscreen. For the last 10 years in my friend group, that person has been me. They gave me a nickname for it, the Trip Mom. At first it was a joke, an affectionate little title for the one who always had the Band-Aids and the backup phone charger. But over time, the joke started to feel less funny. It started to feel like a job description, a job I never applied for, and a job I was definitely not getting paid for. Last month, after our biggest trip ever, I decided to change that. I sent them an invoice for my services, and in doing so, I finally found out the difference between being a friend and being free labor. Our annual trip is a sacred tradition. Ever since college, a group of us, 8 in total, have picked a new destination every year. It's the one time we're all guaranteed to be in the same place, a chaotic, beautiful reunion. But the magic of that reunion doesn't just happen. It's planned. It's researched. It's organized down to the last detail. By me. This year's trip was the big one, a 4-day pass to the Desert Bloom Festival. It was a logistical nightmare. 8 people, 2 rental vans, a highly competitive Airbnb market, and a budget that was more of a vague suggestion than a hard limit. The planning started 6 months ago in our group chat. Okay, guys, I texted, full of my usual naive enthusiasm. Desert Bloom tickets go on sale Friday at 10 a.m. I need a hard yes from everyone by Wednesday so I can buy them in one block. The replies trickled in. Emojis, GIFs, vague affirmations. My best friend, Jessica, the charismatic, chaotic heart of our group, replied with a meme of a golden retriever blissfully ignoring a ringing phone. That was Jessica in a nutshell. All vibes, 0 follow-through. I spent the next 6 months in a state of low-grade, logistical anxiety. I was the only one watching for the perfect Airbnb to pop up, one that could actually sleep 8 people and wasn't a million miles from the festival grounds. I finally found a place after weeks of searching, a slightly dated house but huge with a pool. I sent the link to the group. The only reply I got from Jessica was 2 days later, "Is the pool heated?" I created what I jokingly called the Desert Bloom Ops Center, a sprawling Google Sheets document with tabs for everything, a detailed budget, a breakdown of shared costs, a meal plan that accommodated 2 vegans and 1 person with a gluten intolerance, and a complex driving schedule. I sent the link to the group, asking everyone to fill in their flight details. A week later, it was still completely blank. It was always like this. I was the engine, and they were the happy passengers, blissfully unaware of the complex machinery humming away beneath them. And I let it happen. I told myself it was worth it. I told myself that my contribution to the group was my organization, my planning. I loved them, and I wanted them to be happy. So I did the work. I fronted the money for the tickets on my credit card. I booked the Airbnb. I reserved the 2 massive rental vans. I sent polite, cheerful reminders about payment deadlines that were mostly ignored until the last possible second. I remember one night, about a week before the trip, I was on the phone with Jessica. I was trying to finalize the grocery list. I said, "Jess, I really need to know if you're okay with the tofu scramble for breakfast on Saturday," my voice tight with exhaustion. She laughed, that easy, carefree laugh that I both admired and resented. "OMG, Maya, you need to relax. It's a festival. We'll live on beer and good vibes. Don't stress about the boring stuff." The boring stuff. That's what she called the hours of mental energy I had poured into making sure everyone was fed, comfortable, and safe. But I just sighed and said, "Okay, Jess," because that was my role. I was the trip mom. I handled the boring stuff. The trip itself was, on the surface, perfect. My planning paid off. The drive was seamless, the Airbnb was exactly as described, the fridge was stocked with vegan-friendly snacks and gluten-free bread. We got to the festival each day without a single hiccup, finding the secret parking lot I had researched for weeks, saving us a 2-mile walk in the desert heat. I watched my friends, my family, have the time of their lives. I saw them dancing, laughing, completely free and unburdened by a single logistical thought. And for a little while, it did feel worth it. There was one moment on the second night that I'll never forget. We were in the middle of a massive crowd, a sea of people swaying under the stars as our favorite band played. The bass was a physical presence, vibrating through my chest. Jessica grabbed my hand and pulled me into a hug, shouting over the music, "See, this is what it's all about. You're the best, Maya." In that moment, I felt a surge of warmth. This was why I did it, to create these moments of pure, unadulterated joy for the people I loved. But the warmth was short-lived. It was our last night. We were back at the Airbnb, exhausted, sunburned, and happy. We were sitting around the patio table by the pool, finishing off the last of the beer. The mood was mellow, nostalgic. And then Jessica stood up, a plastic cup in her hand. Okay, speeches," she announced, her voice a little slurry. Everyone quieted down, smiling. She beamed at all of us. "I just want to say, this was the best weekend of my entire life. I love you guys so much." She went around the circle, giving a little compliment to each person. And then she got to me. She raised her cup high in the air, a wide, patronizing grin on her face. "And finally," she said, her voice booming with drunken sincerity, "a huge, special shout-out to our official trip mom, Maya." A few people chuckled. A couple of the guys wolf whistled. I felt a familiar, hot flush of embarrassment creep up my neck. "Thank you, Maya," she continued, completely oblivious. "Thank you for handling all the boring adult stuff, the spreadsheets, the receipts, the schedules, all the things that would have totally killed our vibe. Thank you for doing all that so the rest of us could actually have fun." The group laughed, they clapped, they toasted me. "To Maya," they cheered. And in that moment, as I forced a tight, brittle smile onto my face, something inside me didn't just break. It turned to ice. It wasn't just the words. It was the public declaration of my status. I wasn't a friend enjoying a vacation with my peers. I was a service provider, a function, an unpaid travel agent and logistics coordinator whose entire purpose was to facilitate their fun. My contribution wasn't seen as an act of love. It was seen as a chore that I was uniquely suited for because I was the responsible one, the unfun one, the one who handled the boring stuff. I looked around the table at their smiling, happy faces, and I felt a profound, chilling sense of detachment. I wasn't one of them. I was their employee, and I had just been given my final, patronizing performance review. The drive home the next day was different. I was quiet. Not a sad quiet, but a watchful, observant quiet. My friends were their usual selves, laughing, recapping their favorite moments, blissfully unaware of the tectonic shift that had occurred in my soul. I just drove, my hands gripping the steering wheel, and I calculated. I didn't procrastinate. The moment I got back to my apartment, I didn't even unpack my bag. I dropped my keys on the counter, walked straight to my desk, and opened my laptop. The Desert Bloom Ops Center spreadsheet was still open. Next to it was a neat, zippered pouch filled with every single receipt from the weekend. For the next 2 hours, I worked with a cold, methodical precision. I wasn't a friend tallying up shared costs anymore. I was a project manager, closing out a project, preparing the final invoice for the client. I entered every last expense into the spreadsheet. The gas, the groceries, the extra bag of ice. I double-checked everything. The total cost for the trip, split 7, I wasn't including myself, came to a reasonable figure. But I wasn't done. I opened a new browser tab and searched for freelance event coordinator rates. I found a dozen industry websites, all saying pretty much the same thing. The average rate for managing a multi-day event for a small group was somewhere between 15 and 25% of the total event cost. It was a standard project management fee. A fee for the expertise, the time, and the emotional labor of making sure everything ran smoothly. A fee for handling the boring stuff. I created a new line item at the bottom of the budget spreadsheet. I typed the words slowly, deliberately, savoring each keystroke. Project management and logistics fee. I decided to be generous. I chose the low end of the industry standard, 15%. I calculated the amount. Then I added it to the total trip cost. I created a new final total. I divided it by 7. Then I opened up my payment app. I created a new payment request for each of my 7 friends. I attached a PDF of the final updated expense report. In the memo line for each request, I wrote the same thing. Final accounting for Desert Bloom Festival trip. Thank you. My finger hovered over the send button for a long moment. There was no anger. There was no malice. There was just a quiet, firm sense of drawing a line in the sand, a boundary that was long overdue. I hit send, and then I went to unpack my bag. It took exactly 12 minutes for the group chat to explode. The first message was from Jessica, a single, iconic screenshot of the payment request with a massive red circle around the project management and logistics fee. Below it, her text, LOL, is this a joke? Another friend, Mark, replied a second later, question mark? Maya, what is this fee? The chat was a flurry of question marks and confused emojis. They were baffled. The concept that my time and effort had a quantifiable value was completely alien to them. I let them stew for a few minutes. I watched the confused messages pile up. Then I typed my reply. I wrote it, deleted it, and rewrote it 3 times, making sure it was perfect, calm, professional, irrefutable. Hey everyone, I typed. No joke. At the festival, my contribution was publicly framed as a service that enabled the rest of the group to have fun, rather than a shared effort between friends. So I've decided to bill accordingly. The 15% fee is a standard, low-end rate for the 40-plus hours of logistical and planning work I performed to execute the trip. I'm happy to provide a full, itemized breakdown of my hours if needed. Please submit your payment by the end of the week. I turned their own words, their own framing of my role, into the justification for the invoice. I wasn't being emotional, I was just being a good project manager. The group chat went dead silent. The silence lasted for almost an hour. Then my phone buzzed with a private message. It was from one of the quieter friends in the group, a guy named David. Hey, just paid. Sorry, Maya. We were jerks, you're right. Another one came in a few minutes later. Paid, point taken. Over the next few hours, 4 of the 7 paid without another word. The silence in the group chat was their admission of guilt. But not Jessica. Of course not. She called me, and when I didn't answer, she left a string of furious, rambling voicemails. I cannot believe how petty you are being. After everything we've been through, you're gonna ruin our friendship over a few $100s? It was a joke, Maya. You're the one who likes doing all that planning stuff anyway. This is insane. She didn't get it. She never would. It was never about the money. It was about the value. My value. The group friend, as I had known it, was fractured. The line had been drawn between the friends who saw me as a person and the ones who saw me as a utility. And honestly, it was a relief to finally know who was who. A week later, I looked at my bank account. The planning fees I had collected weren't a life-changing amount of money, but it was symbolic. It was the first time I had ever been paid for the invisible labor I had been performing for a decade. I opened a new browser tab. I searched for solo travel destinations. I found a small, beautiful eco lodge in Costa Rica, a place with no schedules, no group chats, and no one else's needs to consider. I booked a flight for one. I'm leaving next month. And as I sit on that quiet beach with a book in my hand and a drink by my side, I know I won't be thinking about spreadsheets or grocery lists. I'll be thinking about the true cost of friendship and the priceless value of my own peace. The trip mom is officially retired, and for the first time in a long time, I am finally, truly on vacation.